Welcome to the Full Moon Film Buff, episode 155. We're going to talk about Red Riding Hood from 2006. I watched this on Roku. I had not seen this before. As always, we begin with the prominent crew and cast. You can find links to a more complete credit list in the show notes. I love that they gave the Grimm brothers a screen credit for the story. The film was directed by Randall Kleiser, written by Timothy Dolan, with special effects coordinator as Robbie Knott. As a USC freshman, Randall Kleiser appeared in George Lucas's first student film, Freiheit, in 1966. Kleiser did TV before moving to features with Grease in 78. Other films include The Blue Lagoon in 80, Flight of the Navigator in 86, which featured the first use of digital morphing in a motion picture, and White Fang in 91. He was responsible for the surfing classic North Shore from 87. He did 3D films for Disney theme parks around the world. During his time at USC, Kleiser was heavily influenced by Nina Folk and maintained a relationship with her as his mentor throughout his career. He worked with George Lucas to create the Nina Folk course for filmmakers and actors, an instructional video for aspiring actors, writers, and filmmakers. He's judged the Student Oscar Awards for the Academy and serves on the Sci-Tech Council. Working with the Graphics Lab at USC's Institute for Creative Technologies, he co-invented a digital Cinerama-like process called Vistorama HD. He serves on the National Board of the Directors Guild of America and chaired the academic subcommittee. Timothy Dolan only wrote 4 films across the first decade of the 21st century. Robbie Knott did some stellar work on The Muppet Movie in 1979, Dante's Peak in 97, and Donnie Darko in 2001. This film was one of the last as his career ended in 2006 after a scuba diving accident gave him the bends, and he was paralyzed from the waist down. The cast includes Lainey Kazan as Grandma, Henry Cavill as the Hunter, Morgan Thompson as Claire/Red, Sam Oz Stone as Matt/Rusty, Daniel Roebuck as Red's dad, Debbie Mazur as Red's mom, and Joey Fatone as Jack the Wolf, the Big Bad Wolf. Lainey Kazan is easily most famous as Maria Portokolos, mother of Tula Portokolos in the My Big Fat Greek Wedding franchise, including My Big Fat Greek Life, a short-lived series based on the films. She started on Broadway before moving to television and then film. Her popularity increasing, Kazan posed nude for the October 1970 issue of Playboy. This magazine appearance boosted her singing career as she headlined and operated 2 different Playboy jazz clubs. Her Playboy photographs also inspired the look of Jack Kirby's superheroine Big Barda, which I am embarrassed to say I did not know until now. Kazan guest starred on Dean Martin's variety series 26 times. She earned an Emmy nomination for a guest role on St. Elsewhere and a Tony Award nomination for My Favorite Year. With over 100 acting credits on IMDb and a steady stream of theater appearances, she has had a very busy career. Henry Cavill gained worldwide fame portraying Superman, beginning with Man of Steel in 2013 and continuing in Batman v Superman and Justice League. In 2024, Cavill made a surprise cameo appearance in the MCU film Deadpool and Wolverine, as a variant of Wolverine dubbed Cavalry. Cavill debuted on television in 2002 with a role on the Inspector Lindley Mysteries. The next year, he appeared on Midsummer Murders. He played Charles Brandon in the Showtime series The Tudors from 2007 to 10, which earned him critical acclaim and opened many doors. His other notable TV role is as Geralt of Rivia in Netflix's The Witcher from 19 to 23. Cavill began his film career with a role in Laguna, later starred in Immortals, the spy films The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mission Impossible Fallout, and as Sherlock Holmes in the Enola Holmes film series beginning in 2020. He also appeared in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare in 2024. He is also an avid gamer. Morgan Thompson has 4 acting credits. Sam Oz Stone's most notable roles include a stint on As the World Turns from 2007 through 2008, and a long stint on the podcast series 6 Minutes from 19 to 23. With over 250 IMDb film, TV, and video credits with dozens of upcoming projects, Daniel Roebuck is one busy actor. He started in theater and performing stand-up comedy. His film credits include blockbusters like The Fugitive, U.S. Marshals, and Final Destination, as well as Agent Cody Banks and its sequel. Roebuck has done a number of horror movies, his favorite genre, including Halloween, Halloween 2, and Devil's Rejects. Notable to our project, he appeared in the biographical documentary Jack Pierce, The Man Behind the Monsters. He's a familiar face on television, a series regular for 3 seasons on Matlock. Most of his work is as a television guest star, including Grimm, Star Trek, Next Generation, NYPD Blue, Sunny with a Chance, Glee, CSI, Law & Order, Desperate Housewives, and Lost. He has starred in dozens of TV movies. Roebuck's video game work includes L.A. Noire and both recent Star Wars games. Debbie Mazar was discovered by Madonna, who hired her to do her makeup for her first music video, Everybody, in 1982. She's appeared in 5 of Madonna's music videos. Mazar was a B-girl in New York City's dance scene, and her first television appearance was on the pilot for the hip-hop television dance show Graffiti Rock in '84. Her first major role was on Civil Wars in the early 90s, with the character then switching to LA Law. Mazar has a number of minor roles in film, including Goodfellas in '90, The Doors in '91, Batman Forever in '95, and Collateral in 2004. On TV, she appeared on Friends and Entourage. Lately, she and her husband, Gabriel Corcos, hosted cooking shows, Extra Virgin and Extra Virgin Americana. So, interesting tidbit, Joey Fatone got his showbiz start as the Wolfman in Beetlejuice's Rock and Roll Graveyard Revue at Universal Studios, Florida. There, in the summer of 1995, he became part of the boy band NSYNC. Fatone sang with the band from their formation to when they went on an indefinite hiatus in 2002. They sold more than 70 million records. Musical success led to other performing opportunities. Fatone played Cousin Angelo in the comedy My Big Fat Greek Wedding, a role he reprised in the TV spin-off and the film sequel. The same year, he made his Broadway debut, playing the lead in Rent. While he has had other acting roles on TV and film, he's done a lot more as a host and presenter. Fatone has hosted game shows, red carpets, cooking shows, and pay-per-view events. He's also competed on The Masked Singer and on Dancing with the Stars. Unfortunately, given that cast and crew, I do not recommend this film to anyone. It was like watching a train wreck. I get the idea that they were going for a hip modern update to an old fairy tale, make it relevant for the new generation, but it has such strong how do you do fellow kids energy. I hated the music. I hated the cheap green screen. I hated the hip teen vernacular. Do not waste your time. This is a time capsule of the early 2000s. It prominently features iPods, bulky cell phones, bad rapping, horrible green screens, boy bands, and dial-up modems. It tries so hard to be cool and modern, it just made it feel dated quicker. So let's go over the synopsis. Claire, a teen girl obsessed with boy bands, plans to sneak out and meet up with her friends. Her grandma tells the story of Little Red Riding Hood while babysitting. She and her brother Matt spice up the story. Grandma's magic book incorporates their ideas. Red lives with her family in a lighthouse by the ocean. Red is set to travel through the woods, bringing her grandmother soup for her cold. Her mother warns her not to use the shortcut through the woods due to the danger of a wolf. Red takes the shortcut anyway. The wolf stalks her. The 3 Ashleys, modeled on the 3 Billy Goats Gruff, mug her and steal her iPod. The wolf arrives soon after and gobbles the Ashleys up. The wolf also eats a reporter and her cameraman. He eats a lot of random people throughout the movie. When the wolf, in human form, finally closes in on Red, he is caught in a trap. Red releases him, not knowing who he is. Before he devours her, however, he is scared away by the arrival of a hunter, named Hunter, on a white horse with a huge blunderbuss. Not a euphemism. Hunter warns Red against traveling the woods as the creature she released is a werewolf who had eaten his parents. Once again, she ignores this advice and does as she pleases. She doesn't even believe the wolf prints in front of her. He explains the film's werewolf lore. He leaves her with a single silver bullet. Finding herself stranded in the woods with a flat tire, Red calls her brother Rusty for help. Then, her cell battery dies. She daydreams about Hunter while she waits. Her brother arrives on an ATV, but he forgot the bike pump and runs out of gas, which means he's stranded too. They start walking. By the time they reach Grandma's house, the wolf has beaten them there and eaten her. Before he can eat Red too, Rusty distracts him. A chase ensues that nearly ends in Rusty being eaten. Hunter arrives to help. Red tosses a silver bullet into the wolf's mouth, which he swallows. Light begins to pour out from his body and he explodes, releasing everyone he had eaten since becoming a werewolf. Amid the happy reunions, the wolf, who is not dead somehow, finds the gypsy fortune teller who cursed him and was subsequently the first victim to be eaten, and convinces her to remove the curse. Grandmother's story now ended. She offers to tell the children a sequel. Claire decides to stay home rather than sneak out. Claire, Grandma, and Matt order pizza. The pizza delivery guy resembles Hunter from the story. This isn't a traditional werewolf film, but the concept of transformation is central to the story. In fact, it's the only cool thing about the movie, which should not be interpreted as me saying it looks good. It does not. The transformation looks stupid. It's a cheap and quick CGI morph. But the idea is cool. The werewolf can transform himself into the form of his most recent victim, an ability he often uses to gain access to his next victim. It flows neatly from the crucial detail in the Grimm brothers version where the big bad wolf disguises himself as the grandmother and looks enough like her to fool Red, at least for a little while. This film contextualizes this as part of the big bad wolf's supernatural werewolf nature. The makeup is very community theater. Black makeup on the nose, bushy eyebrows, and a beard, fangs, claws. I honestly don't mind this choice. It feels quaint and charming. I kind of wish more of the film felt quaint and charming. Now, the werewolf lore in this film is an intriguing combination. Lycanthropy is the result of a curse. Instead of unleashing rage and violence, however, it unleashed an uncontrollable and insatiable hunger. The wolf eats so many people, one right after the other, more than could possibly fit in his stomach. He is the manifestation of raw consumption. There is an intriguing scene raising the question of whether the wolf is in control or if the appetite is in control. The werewolf has nothing to do with the full moon. He changes forms at will. This film adds the werewolf's cinematic weakness to Silver onto the big bad wolf of fairy tale fame, something most versions of the Little Red Riding Hood tale lack. So the film is about coming of age. Let's talk about that. Coming of age narratives often utilize symbolic journeys and supernatural elements to represent the transition from childhood to adulthood. The forest, with its ancient associations with the wild, the unknown, and the untamed aspects of human nature, serves as an effective setting for these explorations. When combined with elements of danger, transformation, and self-discovery, the forest journey is a ripe metaphorical landscape for examining how youth shed their innocence and embrace the complexities of adult experience. This movie attempts to chart Claire's psychological and emotional development through her literal journey into the forest. The forest represents the space between the safety of childhood and the uncertainty of maturity, where Claire must confront external threats and her own emerging desires. Her interactions with Hunter are clearly catalysts for her transformation from a naive girl into a young woman. However, the film's execution of this metaphorical framework falls short of its intentions, resulting in a coming-of-age narrative that feels both heavy-handed and underdeveloped. Claire's reaction to Hunter, while positioned as a moment of awakening, lacks nuance. The film's treatment of her journey feels superficial, touching on the surface of themes without diving deep enough to create genuine insight or emotional resonance. Now, in contrast, superior examples of this very approach demonstrate how forest journeys and supernatural elements can be woven together to create truly compelling examples and explorations of female adolescence. Neil Jordan's The Company of Wolves from 1984 masterfully uses the fairy tale framework and forest setting to examine female sexuality and agency, creating a dreamlike narrative that feels both ancient and urgently contemporary. Similarly, the Ginger Snaps series, beginning in 2000, employs lycanthropy as a visceral metaphor for puberty and the frightening aspects of bodily change. These films succeed where Claire's story fails because they commit fully to their metaphorical conceits. I anticipate that we'll see better executed examples of these themes again as we move forward. The appeal of the forest journey as a metaphor for female coming of age ensures that filmmakers will continue to explore this territory. Future iterations of this narrative framework would benefit from the lessons learned from both successful and unsuccessful attempts. I mentioned this before, but I want to dive into how do you do, fellow kids, a phrase which originated as a throwaway line from 30 Rock, but became a cultural touchstone for our collective discomfort with performative authenticity. When Steve Buscemi's character tries to infiltrate a group of teens, the absurdity is immediately apparent. His backwards baseball cap, skateboard, and forced slang create a cringeworthy spectacle that's become shorthand for the fundamental awkwardness when outsiders try to force connection with cultures that they don't belong to. Now, this phenomena extends far beyond fictional detectives. A fast food chain tries to go viral with outdated memes. A political candidate awkwardly references TikTok trends, or a luxury brand attempts street cred through tone-deaf collaborations. Each creates the same uncomfortable recognition. We're watching someone who doesn't understand the culture they're trying to harness, yet believes that they can simply perform their way into belonging. The digital age amplifies these dynamics exponentially. Social media makes it easier than ever for outsiders to observe and replicate the markers of belonging. Yet this very same visibility heightens communities' ability to detect and reject inauthentic infiltration. The tools that make cultural codes more accessible also make genuine participation harder to fake. When someone with cultural or economic capital attempts to perform belonging in a community they don't understand, the performance reveals itself through telling mistakes. The timing is off, context is wrong, terms are misapplied, or the motivation is transparently self-serving. These aren't just aesthetic failures, they represent a fundamental misunderstanding of how cultural belonging works. Authentic participation develops organically through genuine engagement, shared experience, and mutual respect. Forced connection typically seeks the benefits of cultural association, coolness, relevance, and market access without taking the time to truly understand. The fellow kids phenomena also reveals the assumption that subcultures can be easily mimicked. This treats cultural expressions as products to be consumed rather than authentic forms of identity and community. The focus on youth culture as something to be captured reveals anxieties about aging, relevance, and cultural currency. The desperate attempt to remain with it often betrays a deeper fear of becoming obsolete. Yet this anxiety prevents the genuine intergenerational dialogue that might actually bridge the divides. And listen, I get it. I'm turning 55 next month. My connection to youth culture is primarily through my kids. And if you listen to them, it's completely cringeworthy. The phenomenon extends beyond age to attempts at crossing racial, economic, regional, and subcultural lines. Now, each context brings its own different dynamics, but the core pattern remains: outsiders attempting to perform belonging without investing in genuinely understanding or building relationships. An excellent current example, without commenting on the politics, is the Democratic Party's masculine outreach program. Millions of dollars are earmarked to, quote, study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces, end quote. This has the exact opposite effect from the desired purpose, demonstrating how little they understand the culture. Consider how these programs operate. A political consultant analyzes successful content in male-dominated online spaces, identifying patterns that generate engagement. Then they create templates for candidates to follow. The result is political content that reads like it was written by someone who learned English as a second language. It's technically correct, but it's culturally tone deaf. And the irony runs even deeper. This cultural research alienates the very audiences it's designed to reach. Members identify inauthentic participation, partly because authenticity is defined in opposition to this calculated institutional approach. These communities often formed precisely as alternatives to mainstream institutional discourse, and this creates a feedback loop of failure. The more money and effort that's invested, the more obviously external the outreach becomes. And when young men see political content crafted by a committee to appeal to young men, they don't see representation, they see manipulation. The alternative would require something that political institutions find almost impossible: genuine cultural fluency developed through authentic participation rather than strategic study. This means having people within the organization who are already part of these communities, not hiring consultants to teach infiltration tactics. The implications extend beyond politics. That's not the point of this. Whether corporations capitalizing on internet culture or parties building coalitions, the tendency is to treat culture as a code to be cracked, rather than a community to be joined. This highlights the limitations of data-driven approaches to human connection. Demographic analysis can identify where audiences spend time online, but it cannot capture the intangible qualities that make communication feel genuine. The very resources that enable studying and targeting audiences also distance organizations from those very audiences. The infrastructure of political campaigning creates a barrier to the authentic engagement it's supposedly designed to facilitate. The medium becomes the message, and the message is calculated manipulation rather than genuine connection. Digital influencer culture has created new variations on this theme. The pressure to demonstrate authenticity across multiple demographics leads to increasingly complex performances of belonging. Influencers attempt to connect with gaming culture, fashion subcultures, political movements, and lifestyle trends, all simultaneously, creating cultural code switching that can feel forced and calculated. I know this from personal experience. The economic logic is undeniable. Only covering werewolf movies limits my potential audience. If I cared and wanted to be big, I would need to engage more people. But attempting to credibly discuss every film creates jarring inconsistencies that audiences immediately detect. The enduring power of the "how do you do, fellow kids" meme lies in its ability to capture a specific social failure we all recognize. It crystallizes the moment when performance reveals itself, when the gap between intended and actual effect becomes visible. and when the pursuit of cultural capital backfires spectacularly. Perhaps most importantly, the meme reminds us that authentic cultural connection cannot be manufactured or purchased. It develops through genuine participation, mutual respect, and often a willingness to remain on the periphery rather than demanding the center stage. In our increasingly connected world, where cultural boundaries are both more visible and more fluid than ever, the temptation towards performative belonging will only increase. The fellow kids phenomena serves as both warning and guide, a reminder that the most meaningful connections happen when we stop trying so hard to fit in and start just genuinely showing up as ourselves. Get off my soapbox. All right. So if you like lycanthropy, like, share, and subscribe. Contribute your thoughts and additional observations in the comments below. Let me know what I missed or what you noticed. Next, I plan on discussing an erotic werewolf in London from 2006. Keep your eye on the moon, a silver bullet in the chamber, and we'll see you back next episode.